is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I share in my colleagues' outrage over the unethical and illegal sales practices at Wells Fargo, which opened up over 1.5 million fake bank, credit card, and web services accounts in the names of real customers, costing those consumers millions of dollars in fraudulent overdraft and inactivity fees, and potentially hurting their credit scores through no fault of their own. And while Wells Fargo does not have a major retail presence in Kentucky, it's very likely that many of my constituents in the 6th Congressional District in central Kentucky were defrauded through Wells Fargo's credit card programs. And if you could, reference your materials again and identify the number of my constituents who may have been impacted.
Okay, let me get that. And while I'm getting that, I'd like to make clear that the 1.5 million deposit accounts, very few, if any, had any credit impact. We didn't report that to the credit bureau, so we're really talking about credit card here. But let me
potentially the accounts in Kentucky.
There were 629 accounts that could not be ruled out. We didn't know.
Well, for those 600 of my potential constituents, yes, you've testified today that what happened at your institution over the last several years was not consistent with your culture and ethics.
Correct.
But I have to think about those 600 Kentuckians.
No question.
And my constituents who may have had an account opened without their knowledge, without their consent, middle-income, hardworking Kentuckians. Mm-hmm. And that may have resulted in overdraft fees, inactivity fees, and it could very well have damaged their credit score. And again, no fault of theirs. So you've said that you want to make this right, but I would say that my constituents who have been damaged by your conduct would say that culture that allowed that to happen, that's a rotten culture. So my question to you is, let's not lose focus on these victims. Let's not lose focus on those defrauded Wells Fargo customers. And you said your bank will make this right for your customers, and this committee's job is to hold you accountable to make this right. So will you commit to me, and we all have caseworkers, and it won't surprise me at all if we get a call from a customer who's been wronged. Will you commit to me and your government relations team commit to me on the record that you will work with us and our constituents to make this fully right for them?
Yes. So let me just, the answer is yes with an explanation. We are committed to make it right for every one of our single customers. In fact, we are working with, we're going to have a consultant that the CFP has to approve. We're going to have mediation. We're going to go back. And I'm interested in results. I'm not interested in I'll have our team work with your team.
I appreciate that because clearly there was a lot that went on wrong with your bank. No one did enough. No one did enough fast enough to fix it. Secondly, I want to tell you who I also think about in addition to those constituents who have been harmed. I think about the community banks and credit unions in my district, and I've talked to many people who work for small institutions in rural Kentucky who are your competitors. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this scandal has painted a bad picture for the entire banking sector. And frankly, the institutions in my district that are those community banks and credit unions, they don't have your culture. But now they have a tarnished reputation because they've been swept into this with you. And we've been fighting for regulatory relief for these small community banks and these credit unions that frankly represent competition to big banks like you. And so what I worry about are these small community banks and credit unions that are now going to have to deal with the ramifications of the bad acts of your institution. Can you comment on your colleagues in the banking sector that now are going to have to live with the regulatory onslaught that is likely going to sweep them into this when they're not at fault? And frankly, they don't have a culture like yours.
Well, again, I'm sorry for what we did. I'm sorry that we didn't move fast enough. Again, the vast majority of our people, even in our regional bank, especially our regional bank, did exactly what was right. They followed our culture. This is about people who did not do the right thing, or at least about behavior that was not right, and I accept responsibility for that, and I'm sorry about what happened.
And one final question is that you testified today that you should have known sooner that product sales goals would have elicited bad behavior. Was it your policy at the time that all of this was going on to notify customers when an account was opened?
You know, when an account was opened that was not funded, we had it automatically, within 60 or 90 days, removed from the account file. It was not until 2015 that we finally put it together that there could be a fee during this. So that's when we did the full-blown study back to 2011.
Well, I would think that best practices going forward, at least, and in the past, should have been to notify a customer when you open an account. Yield back.
In fact, we do that today. Within 1 hour of an account being opened today, they get a notice that an account's been opened. And we won't even pull a credit bureau unless we have a signature.
Now recognize the gentleman.